So let's just have a listen to the closed hat. Cool, nice sounding closed hat. I'm going to bring a bit more bite out of this. And what I'm going to use is the Renaissance Aux. Now this is a plugin from Waves, and it's actually been designed for guitars and bass. I come across it by accident. I was just flicking through plugins and I just put this on a percussion instrument or a hat instrument, and it really worked. So I've been using it for ages and not knowing actually what it's for, and only recently I thought, let me just read up on this to check, you know, what it's being used for. And it's actually made for guitars and leads, so it's for like fast instruments. For instance, like, you know, when you're playing a guitar, it's all very plucky, and this plugin can really pull out the transients of the plucks. But it's also really good on drum sounds, I've found, and it's really, really easy to use. So I just use it as kind of like a drum compressor. Sometimes in the past I've tried to compress drums, and with a compressor you have got a lot of settings, and it's quite difficult to get the setting right on a compressor to really pull the transients out of a hat or a clap. I found that using compressors in the past, I'd be only stifling the sound, and my compression was making the sound even duller or flatter. But this is great to use. So let me just pull this down. So it's so simple. I'm just pulling down the threshold. You can see how much it is reducing. Turn this off, you can see what's happening. So it's obviously adding quite a lot of volume, so we make up for that. Turn it on and off. Still a bit too loud to really compare what it's doing. That's about right. Maybe a touch more. Okay, so the volume's about right, but you can really hear how this is bringing out the attack and the transient, the first attack, but then after the initial attack, there's some saturation going on. It's really bringing it out and making a very dull hat sound quite powerful. So let's hear that in a mix. I'll turn this off now. I'll mute this open hat so you can really hear. I'll actually bring the level up of this now. Because what I actually do with the closed hat as well is I'll level this to a point where if there is no open hat, it's still standing up. So for instance, if I was like I had before, had the open hat on and I was leveling it, if there came a point in the track where there was no open hat, all of a sudden my track's going to collapse and it's going to miss that initial attack. So I'll level it here to make it sound good with the kick, and then start adding other sounds in. See that? How much that's adding. So really cool plugin to use on a closed hat. I use that a lot, and I think we might use that again later in the track, but let's go on to the next point now. So open hat. Okay, so on hats, I'll generally, any kind of big open hats, rides, I will look for ringing points. Closed hats, not so much, but generally open hats and rides, they have awful lot of build-up frequencies when they've been recorded because of the nature of the sound. So let's pull up the Fab Future Q3. Okay, so let's just listen just to the open hat. Okay, essentially what I said, there is ringing points in this that if you don't get them under control now, when you start to add more compression and limiting later, the compressors start to bring up these horrible ringing points. So as a mixing engineer, your kind of focus should be thinking about this when you're listening to sounds, any sound really. You're listening to sounds that are undesirable, and then you're adding tones and flavors that are desirable. So when I'm listening to this hat, I'm trying to remove some of the undesirable sounds that I know for a fact my compressor, my limiter is going to bring to the forefront of the mix. And obviously around this area, we've got a lot of information going on from, you know, from 1K upwards. There's a lot of information going on. You've got the shakers, the hi-hats, you've got some vocals, you've got synths. So you think all of these are building up in this area, and all of these could have some certain frequencies that we don't like. So the point now is we're trying to remove some of these frequencies to avoid this build up. And like I said, when you get the build up of all these sounds together and then compression and limiting, it just results in a very harsh mix. So that's what we're going to do now. So Q3, FabFilter Q3 is an amazing EQ plugin. The reason I like it is because it has unlimited, well, I think it's not unlimited, but it's a lot of Q points. If you look at most EQs like Logic's Q, you've got maybe 7 points you can EQ, and FabFilter I think is about 30 or 40, and you're never going to use that many, but it's really cool, and it's really easy to listen to ringing points on this as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select one point here. I use this button here, which is the listening tool. This is why I like it as well, is because you can focus on this band, what you're listening to. So for instance, if I play it now, I'm just listening to this band. You see how it's getting bigger and smaller? I can listen to the whole band, or I can listen to a tiny bit, and that's what I want to do here. Now I've got this tiny bit set up, I'm just going to sweep the frequency range and find points I don't like. So that's one straight away. Hear that? Okay, now I've got this point. I'm going to make the Q super small, which it is, and then I'm going to accentuate it so you guys can hear it. Now watch your ears for a second. So that's what we're removing. Okay, I'm going to now remove it. Maybe go down, we'll change this range to 12. We'll go down 3 dB. Okay, now what I want you to do is a little listening test. I'm going to turn this on and off, and it's crazy. You're just going to hear this ringing point happen now. But before, when you was listening to it, you probably didn't notice it. Okay, so it depends how good your ears are, but when I'm turning it off, I can really hear a ringing point going away. And this will, let's just do more of these, and then we'll really hear it. So I'm going to go through a few more of these. Okay, I'll accentuate them so you can hear what we're removing. I'll turn this on and off. So we're removing any harsh frequencies from this open hat. Now this one actually doesn't sound too bad. We'll find probably a ride later or another open hat that's worse. And I'm sure when you do this, it's going to be more noticeable. But to me, I can hear what's going on. Then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a couple bumps just to make sure I'm not taking too much away from this. So just cleaning up that hat sound. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up an Oxford Evolution. So this is another plugin. Let me just reset the settings. This is another plugin that is a transient designer. It's quite like the Evo that we showed you before, but instead of working in specific bands, it works over the whole band. It's a very punchy transient designer, and it's great for pulling out attack and sustain on sound. So let me show you what this does. So initially just the sustain's great just to lengthen the sound, but this is really the beauty of it for hats. If you ever find your hats aren't cutting through the mix, EQing doesn't do it. It's transient designing. Alright, watch this. I'll turn this on and off. That initial attack is exactly what I'm after, just to help this hat cut through the mix more. So let's have a listen to it in context. Just get the level right as we've added a bit to it. See how that hat just completely becomes so present in the mix. When I'm turning it off, it gets a bit lost. Off, on, off, on. Okay, just for these 3 changes, let's just hear where we was before in our mix, because this is what we always are doing, constantly making sure we haven't gone too far. Because as I said earlier, mixing is all about small changes. It's a dB here, a dB there. Everything, all the little changes start to add up into a big thing. It's not, you know, doing one big boost on the master channel or one massive boost to the bass. It's just lots of little things. It's more a little touch on the kick, a little touch on the bass, a little touch on the hats, and that's really what we're doing.